Evening, this is the call to order of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting at the Salado Municipal Building located at 301 North Stagecoach Road, Salado, Texas. The date is August 15th, 2024, and the time is 6:30 p.m. Ms. Bean, please call the roll.
Let the record show all present except Alderman Green.
Thank you, ma'am. As we begin this Board of Aldermen meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on our shared commitment to serve the diverse community of the Village of Salado. We invite all present, regardless of faith, belief, or philosophy, to join us in a spirit of unity, respect, and compassion. May our deliberations be guided by wisdom, our decisions rooted in fairness, and our actions driven by the common good. Whether you find inspiration in a higher power, the bonds of humanity, or the wonders of nature, let us work together to build a culture where every voice is heard and every individual is valued. Just take a moment, please. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, one nation, to be Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. First item on the agenda is public comments. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 5-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during this time period. Speakers desiring to speak on an agenda item will be allowed to speak when the agenda item is called. Inquiries about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to staff or placed on a future agenda for Alderman consideration. Mr. Larry Michaels. Sir? Okay. Elizabeth Whitfield. As you approach the podium, please state your name and your address.
Elizabeth Whitfield, 1800 Chisholm Trail. And I would like to come and say to y'all, thank you for what you're doing. And I know y'all have uncovered some things that are uncomfortable for us as citizens and for you too. And thank you for trying to rectify the situation. And I would just like to offer one suggestion that came to my mind. I know that everybody wants to work together to come up with a way that we can avoid having a large tax increase. And one of the things that came to mind, because everybody wants to work together, people that live outside the village as well as people that live inside the village. We have a large number of people that ride around in golf carts that come from outside the village and that ride around on the roads that live here in the village. And I checked with other cities that allow golf carts, and they charge $50 a year for citizens of their town. And then if you live outside the town, you have to pay $100 a year. And they get a little sticker to put on their golf cart. And I thought that would be a way that we could raise a good amount of money to bring into the village. And I will come up with some other ways that I'll think of before next week, but I just wanted to give that to y'all and say thank you. And I hope that we can rectify this situation. I've lived here since 1996, and I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of fear mongering to get people to do certain things, and I'm glad that y'all have changed. The bullying's not going to be accepted anymore, and the things that you're doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. Mr. Jim Boynton.
Jim Boynton, 3565 FN 2843 in Salado. I want to echo what she said about the bullying that's gone on in this town for years. I first got bullied by Merle Stalcott and Denny McCourt back when I was trying to build my kids' houses in 2009. And it's just like you've heard say about the former city manager and mayor. They were going around and rejecting your plans, stalling it. I've got documentation of falsified documents from Don himself, made up documents. But the thing that irritates me the most is I think everybody needs to be on board about doing what we can. I'm specifically disappointed in Rodney Bell himself. He didn't show up to the meeting. He didn't give any other comments other than we can save $10,000 here. This isn't a $10,000 savings. This is $2 million. Without his vote, the mayor could not have done anything. Those guys voted together, and if you went to them, they weren't concerned. I've told everybody on the council, I've even told Bert this, and he can verify it. What was going on down in Wimberley was what Don did up here. So we shouldn't be surprised. We should not be giving him any pass, nor the mayor. When council members come out with an ad supporting a guy who's being called out as being corrupt, they support him in an election, it looks like we're supporting corruption in this town. And that's what Elizabeth was talking about. She was one of the ones that has come up to me and said, they've watched it through the whole way. To get a just for y'all to know, to get a building permit for my kid's house in 2009, I walked into Merle Stalcott's office and told him that my attorney was going to file a lawsuit against the city, the bank, and the city manager of the time for basically yanking us around and holding up a building project. We had rock solid plans. We were going to do everything right, and they knew that. They were doing everything they could, just like a council member we had trying to hook onto the sewer. They did everything they could to hook up, and by supporting guys like that, we as a community together are guilty by not speaking up. The governments always say, if you see something, say something. There's not anybody in this town doubts that I hadn't spoke up. The one thing I would tell you is I've not said anything untruthful. The process down in Wimberley that they went through, they decided not to have any public hearings and just lose the money and go on. We don't have that option. We've got all sorts of problems that we need to start working at. My opinion, nobody wants to have a tax increase, but if you vote against it, what is your solution? There is no solution. Either that or you can stop doing what you're doing and let the state take us over. And I don't know if that's such a bad idea if we keep going down this same path. Our current mayor, most of our council, our city manager are going to try and work together. But we've got all sorts of issues. When we let a former mayor be our elections judge, who I have documented, and all this is documented through y'all's open records request. I've got it. If y'all want it, come up and tell me. I've looked through it. I've got it. It's very perfectly clear that Denny McCourt falsified records as the mayor. Don falsified records on the plumbing, communications with my son, who's a cop in Killeen. He's done all sorts of stuff about dragging his feet and dragging us through the mud. You're worried about $2 million, and rightly so. How much money do you guys think, looking the other way, cost your taxpayers all through the city for these years? It's not going on for 3 years or 4 years. It's been going on for multiple years. And it's documented on your own archive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boynton. Anybody else want to make public comments? Okay, we're going to move on to item 2, the consent agenda. A is approval of the minutes of August 1st, 2024, regular Board of Aldermen meeting. And B is approval of financial reports ending July 31, 2024. Mr. De La Rosa, do you have anything you want to add to any of those two?
That's right, yeah.
Alderman Hurst, do you have any questions?
No.
Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? I'll open the floor for motion.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we approve the consent agenda as written for parts A and B.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve as written for the consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All in favor of approval of consent agenda as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? This being this passes 3-0. Item 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding any item removed from the consent agenda. There are none. 4, status reports. A, Village Administrator's report on sales tax collections, Space Park All Abilities Playground dedication ceremony, and Public Works Maintenance Worker position vacancy. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, good evening. Let's start with 4A, the sales tax collections. You'll see it up on the screen there. Note that not only did I do the last, previous 2 years, I've done in the past. I actually gave you all the way back to July of 2021. You'll see that jump in 2021 and 2022. So that was pretty significant. But it looked like all of 2021 was like that all the way across the year. And there was a considerable jump from 21 to 22, almost all the way across. But again, looks we're holding steady. So I think that's good. And again, it's part of that forecasting when we look at some of these things historically. So sales tax, beverage taxes, it's all running about the same. Any questions on this one item? So just to say, July 2024 was $83,152. So unless there's any questions, I want to move on to 4B. I'd like to read.
I got one question for you. So I know back in the March, April timeframe, when Quick Trip opened, we saw a spike, but it doesn't appear like that spike is maintained.
No, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just a shift in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we lost anything more, but it certainly has. It leveled off after 2 months, and it's been holding pretty steady for the rest. So we saw that income. So I think it'll continue to stay steady. I don't know exactly, where the buying power shifted or who lost what. So, okay. So, and for Saturday, to remind the community, we have the Space Park All Abilities Playground dedication ceremony Saturday, 10 a.m. Wear shorts, be comfortable. It's probably going to be hot and humid, but we're going to have the flags already been posted. The park is ready for having our citizens out there, and we can enjoy that park. So, any questions? And then the last thing is we are still looking for a public works maintenance employee. So if there's any folks that are interested, the job pays between $17 and $20 depending on qualifications. It is a maintenance position. We've been contracting out the road repairs, right? The cold patch doesn't work well, so it's better the new approach that we've taken by outsourcing that. So when I say maintenance, it's mowing, taking care of the buildings, weed eating, blowing. I mean, we do use mowers. We appreciated the volunteers that we had previously, but this is not something we need to take on. I don't know if a single employee can take on everything we've got, so we will continue to use consulting or these outsourced mowers or lawn services. But again, public works employees are not landscapers, so that the park, I believe, looks better the way it's now being maintained at a certain. So when you mow right of ways along roadways, it's different than when you're manicuring around parks and playgrounds and things like that. Very different disciplines of mowing type disciplines. Okay. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 4B is the police chief status report, calls for service, license plate reader program update, and departmental update.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I'm going to be heard. Usually I don't use this. So slide. 381 total calls for service. The month of July, though that is down 38 calls. Previously, we averaged 13.96 calls for service per day. We're down to 12.29. Doesn't mean they're not as important. It just means we're not getting as many calls for service. Our priority 1 calls for service did go up 10. We had 9 the previous month. We're up to 19 now. If you remember back in June, we were pretty flat line on the calls for service per day, with the exception of Wednesday. That mostly. For July, we're back to up and down, up and down, up and down, with our 2 busiest days being Monday and Thursday. 5 o'clock p.m. time frame on calls for service by time of day. You'll notice that dropped down to about 10 versus where it was previously, up around 15, 16. So we're getting a little bit less calls for service. That's a little early in the evening, but calls for service are still pretty steady between 10 a.m. and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There were 3 arrests last month. We took 26 incident reports, 9 supplemental reports. We assisted with 20 crash reports. We actually only took 12 crash reports, but we assisted with additional crashes, helping with traffic control up on I-35 while the GPS worked accident. Traffic stop data, we had 77 traffic stops, resulted in 31 citations, 56 warnings. That's an enforcement rate of 40.25. We're going to try to get that up just a little bit. I like to keep it between 40 and 45. That's on the lower end of it. If you remember last month, we were right about 48, so it did slip down just a little bit. Assist outside agency calls, we had 2 of those, or correction, we had 8 of those, 2 of them that I'll talk about in the next slide. And we did appear before the grand jury 1 time. July the 4th, officers were dispatched to the 400 block of South Main in reference to disturbance. Subject was located. He was intoxicated. He was field tested and arrested and was in possession of a THC vape. So there was a Class C misdemeanor charge for public intoxication and a felony charge for possession of THC vape. On July the 6th, we had a driver while intoxicated. Officer initiated a traffic stop for failure to stop at a stop sign, failure to stop at a designated point. Subject exhibited signs of intoxication. Field sobriety test was performed, and arrest for DWI was made. July the 10th, we had an assist outside agency. Sex offender had absconded from Florida. We were contacted by a sheriff's department that indicated that the absconded sex offender contacted the victim in Florida from a cell phone that traced back to a resident of the Village of Salado. We conducted an investigation. It was determined that the individual does not live in the Village of Salado. He used a cell phone from a friend who lives in the Village of Salado. So we passed that information on. We did go as far as to give the Killeen Police Department his address so that they can make sure that he no longer absconds. And we contacted Florida so they can have warrants issued if they choose. July the 19th, driving under the influence by a minor. Traffic stop was initiated on a minor who was operating a golf cart. The minor was found to be in possession of an alcoholic beverage, and field sobriety test confirmed that he had a detectable amount of alcohol in his system. DWI or DUI for minor is different than DUI for an adult. An adult is 0.08% alcohol by or BAC. For a minor, it's any detectable amount. Any detectable amount for a minor. So there was alcohol detected in the minor system. He was charged with a Class C misdemeanor DUI, and he was released to his parents. We probably are going to do a whole lot worse than that Class C misdemeanor. July the 19th, we had a tampering with a witness. About 2 months ago, back in Georgetown, husband and wife got into a physical altercation, or got into a verbal altercation which turned physical when the wife was assaulted. Husband was arrested for assault causing bodily injury to a family member. She has subsequently left, moved here, and has become a resident of Salado. The subject made contact with her and advised her that she was not going to get kids back unless she dropped charges. So we initiated an investigation. We got a copy of the protective order and other documents associated with that arrest. And the warrant will be sought for tampering with a witness. July the 28th, we had driving while intoxicated. We received a reckless driver call. If you guys have heard any of the scanners, that's usually what it is. I got a reckless driver northbound I-35. It's a blue in color Honda. Officer was able to locate the vehicle, develop probable cause, observed the vehicle failed to maintain a single lane, initiated traffic stop, conducted field sobriety test on the driver who had signs of intoxication. Field sobriety test didn't work out too well for the driver. They were arrested for DWI. July the 30th, assist outside agency on the theft by deception. I've noticed here lately that we've been getting a lot of scams. This happened to an elderly lady that actually lives outside the village, but she came in, she wanted to talk to an officer, and I'm not going to turn her away and send her someplace else. We're here, we're going to take care of it, do the best we can to get it taken care of. She stated that she'd received a letter saying that she owed $500 from Norton Antivirus. She said she doesn't have Norton Antivirus, so she made a phone call to the number that was on the letter. They said, okay, we just need your bank account information so we can refund the money. She gave them the bank account information. About 5 minutes later, they told her, ma'am, we accidentally refunded $50,000 instead of $500. We need you to go to your bank and withdraw cash and send it to us. She tried to check her account. It did not show that there was a $50,000 refund. They told her, oh, it's like that. It always happens like that. It's just one of those things where it may show up tomorrow. It may show up the next day. It may show up in a week. It may be being held by the bank. So she went to 2 different banking locations, withdrew $10,000 at each banking location, advised them that she was buying, when they asked, she advised that she was buying a car with it, brought it back to her residence, packaged it up the way they requested, and a large gentleman came to her front door and picked it up. It's not a good situation. With that being said, we've got the report on file. We forwarded it to the Bell County Sheriff's Office. Like I said, lives just outside our city limits. We had a long educational conversation with her. She has my cell phone number. She has the officer's on-duty cell phone number. If she gets another call or she gets another letter, she's more than welcome to call us, and we'll check it out before she has any more incidents like this. She did call back a couple of days later and let us know that she was contacted about the remaining $30,000. At which time she said, I've reported this to the Salado Police Department, and he hung up. Maybe that $30,000. The final, possession of marijuana. Traffic stop or a traffic accident occurred in the 1100 block of West Village. Investigation revealed the subject to be in possession of marijuana at the time of the accident. The subject was subsequently transported to Scott and White for treatment due to injuries sustained in the accident. We were able to get a warrant for possession of marijuana. We also, we have a grand jury subpoena to get a copy of blood so that we can determine if there was intoxicants in the system at the time. And if they are, a warrant will be sought for driving while intoxicated. Response time breakdown. 4 minutes and 9 seconds was our priority 1 call for service. That's not really great, but it's not really bad either. I'd like to see that a little bit closer to 3.5 minutes. Where we went up the most was on our priority 4 calls for service. Those are generally officer-initiated field activity, meaning the cell phone goes off, I get on my radio, I contact the Bell County Sheriff's Office and say, I just received a phone call from such and such location, I'll be en route to that location. And that took us 6 minutes and 59 seconds. 6 minutes and 59 seconds doesn't seem like a long time, but to me, in a town of 2.8 square miles, I think 6 minutes and 59 seconds is a little excessive. So we're going to be working on speeding up that priority 4 response time. It was a slow week, or correction, a slow month for house watches. We did conduct 5 house watches during the month. Here's a big number for you. Unique plate reads. Normally these are in the 50 and 60 thousands. 132,276 unique plate reads. I'm going to blame the majority of those on an incident that occurred on I-35, causing a lot of traffic to come down Main Street. A lot of traffic to turn on Thomas Tunnel. A lot of traffic to turn on Salado Plaza. So I believe that number is mildly skewed based on that. We did not retain any plates for investigation. We had 84 system alerts, and again, system alerts are sex offender has passed by here, stolen vehicle has passed by here, things of that nature. And we did access it 3 times for administrative use. Before I go any further, I had contact with a gentleman by the name of David Thomas. He's our regional sales manager for Flock Systems. I told him I wasn't happy with his product. I showed you some pictures before. They were very grainy. They were very blurry. They are going to come out and physically inspect each one of our cameras to make sure that we have the most up-to-date software installed. That's going to help us out a lot. They just came out with a new enhancement feature that helps with night vision, so it's going to give us a little better, clearer pictures, more clearer pictures at night. With that, seeing as I was mildly upset when we were discussing this, he opened up a package for me that gives us a little different charting and graphing, so it makes it sometimes a little more difficult. This one got a whole lot of colors up there, but now we can actually track the plate reads by specific location. You'll see on the right-hand side, the color-coded dots are next to where a camera is located, and then in the panel itself, it shows the amount of reads per camera. You'll notice that's plate reads by location. The very bottom line, that green, that's on Old Mill. Look at unique plate reads. That bottom line gets a whole lot smaller. That tells us that there's the majority of people that use Old Mill are people who go by that camera more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. Those are our residents that use those. But if you look at the one that goes down Salado Plaza, go back one. Salado Plaza, that's total plate reads. That's the very top one, the light purple, lavender, should I say. And if you flip the next slide, there's a whole lot more individuals that go down Salado Plaza that aren't from Salado, or that at least cross the camera that's on main Salado Plaza. Now, that camera occupies 2 lanes. It has the eastbound traffic that goes completely across Main Street towards Mill Creek, and then it also hits the right-hand turn lane. So we're getting a little bit more bang for our buck at that particular camera location, but it just helps you see where your unique plate reads are a little higher than normal. Like I said, we had 132,276 plate reads. We did delete out 35,715 from the previous month. Some department news. I was approached a couple of months ago by Ms. Katie Hill, who wanted to have a fundraiser for the police department. She asked us what type of equipment we would like. Rather than talk about equipment that would benefit the police department, I wanted to talk to her about equipment that would benefit the public. As you know, we got a couple of police cars, newer police cars, and we don't have AEDs to go in. Refurbished AED, automatic electronic defibrillator. A refurbished one's roughly $1,000. Brand new, you're looking at about $1,500. So, with that being said, she hosted the Cops and Robbers 5K on the 27th, raising just over $3,100 to assist us in purchasing AEDs. And again, that may be for the police department, but the way I look at it, that's for the general public, because that puts a piece of life-saving equipment in the back of a patrol car that can be at your house further faster than that 6 months. I made contact with Bell County Sheriff's Office, a gentleman by the name of Captain Wilcox. He offered the TCOL, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, new supervisor's course. Normally that's a $150 course. He offered it for free. Bell County Sheriff's Office is teaching it. They had 1 extra seat. So I went ahead and snatched up that seat. Made contact with personnel in the department. Going down the seniority list, Officer Bolton was the first officer that has not had that course yet. So we went ahead and signed her up for that course. Again, it's a 3-day course, 24 hours. Teaches officers how to transition from officer, line officer to supervisor. One of my personal beliefs is that everybody in the department is a supervisor. Everybody in the department is a leader. So we should train everybody in the department to be leaders. She may not have stripes and she may not be a formal leader now, but at least we got the training out of the way. Next week, I will be attending the Texas Police Chief Leadership Series. It's offered by the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas. It is mandatory for chiefs of police every 2 years. The cycle ends 2025, so I figured I'd jump on it as soon as I could. It is a free class. That's not costing the department anything. It's paid for by grant. And finally, Cadet Trabeau is still in the academy, doing quite well. Still the class leader, but he's still, if you've been in the military, he's the platoon sergeant. He's getting used to the tests. They test on Mondays, and they test on all the topics that you had the previous week. So on Monday, you'll have 4 or 5 tests. On Tuesday, you won't have any. Next Monday, you'll have 4 or 5 tests. So he's getting used to that, but other than that, I mean, he's moving along just fine, and we're looking forward to him graduating in December. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Alderman Hurst, you have a question?
Hey, thank you for the presentation, Chief. To your experience and what you've seen so far, are you seeing an uptick in DUI, DWIs here in our community in the last 60 to 90 days?
I'm seeing an uptick of officers becoming more proactive. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to say that there has been an uptick in DWIs. I'm not going to say that. I will say that there has been an uptick in officers' productivity, probably resulting in what appears to be an uptick in DWI.
So to rephrase, greater engagement from your officers?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief.
That's it. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you. Mr. De La Rosa, is it appropriate this? We had a late entry and wanted to do public comments, and if we get
You certainly may, Mayor.
okay.
Back to public comments, yes.
The board, you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ms. Noreen Garcia. Ms. Garcia, when you approach the podium, you'll just speak your name, your address, and you will have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Noreen Garcia, 1211 Yellow Rose, that's Toledo. So there's been a lot of talk on Facebook, I'm sure many of you have heard it, maybe not, but we're having a problem with our water. And this is the water that I got this morning, and it's coming out of all of our faucets. And I don't know if any one of you guys are having this problem, but I don't know what to do about it. I've already called Salado Water Company, and they're telling me that it's safe enough to drink. I would not drink this. I have a grandson who comes to us often, and I would not put him in my tub. I don't know what to do, but this is not acceptable, and I don't know where to turn. I'm going to have it tested to find out what's in it, but this is not acceptable. I don't think any one of you guys would ever drink this. So is there anything that we are doing for the public? I mean, we all live here in Salado. I know some of you guys, the pool's turning colors. We've lost some trees. I'm not sure if it's due to this. My husband had to replace 2 or 3 trees this past weekend. So we're not sure what's going on, but I'd like some answers, and I don't know if we are testing the water for all of us, but this is not something that is safe. And I'm having to now look for water filters, and that's going to be pretty costly. I've already gotten 2 quotes today, and it's turning out to be a very big cost to our family. So I know that you don't control the water, but what are we doing about that?
Is it appropriate for me to speak to what I've done? I've had those conversations with
No, Mayor, for public comments.
Ms. Garcia. The best I can offer is I can reach out. You can reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you tomorrow. I can't discuss it in
I
this
appreciate that.
forum, but
Thank
I was challenged publicly that if I agreed with the testing quality of that water, that she was going to bring it up here and let me drink it. I will take a drink of that water if that's what you want me to
Oh,
do.
absolutely. Let's do that.
I saw the numbers. You drink the rest of it? Here. I'll reach out to you tomorrow and we'll have this. I'll tell you what we're doing.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Back to item 4C, Tourism Department report. Ms. Deanna Whitson.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. I'm here to give my tourism report this evening. So, at the beginning here is for our visitsaladotexas.com website and our QR code. So we've had 201 users, we've had 211 sessions, we've had 1,611 page viewers, we've had 19 Apple downloads and 6 Android downloads. And I'm happy to say that all of these numbers have increased significantly from the previous months. So that means our QR code is working well, our website is staying up to date, so I'm very glad for that. And then our visitor center, that number is down a little bit at 204 for this month. July is a big month, everybody goes out of state, so that number is not unusual for July months. Upcoming events, again, download our QR code, that is for everybody, that we are keeping every event that's daily or throughout the year updated. And then for the next slide, any extra news that we have. So first on the agenda is, again, we do have a project that we're working on for the fall. We have a very busy fall season, and on our social media, we have a project that we are going to kick off in September. And then we have, with our events coming up, we have approximately about 1,000 bags that we are working on for goodie bags for events that are also coming up. And then on our QR codes, we have been talking to our hotels, and we have a couple of them who have given us a specific designated wall where we are able to put our Welcome to Salado, our QR code, and our rack cards that will hold our local business rack cards to keep that full for the people who are staying overnight there, so that they can stay up to date and then come down Main Street as well and plan for future events along the way too. And then the fourth thing I have is we are planning and organizing with different groups already for stays. That's through the fall, and we already have some already laid out through July of 2025. So we are super busy, and I recommend that if you don't have the download, or if y'all don't have the download for the QR code, please do so. And if we can answer any questions or help along the way, let us know. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Deanna.
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions just for my own general knowledge.
Okay.
When it comes to who downloads the QR code, are we geofencing that? For example, if I downloaded here in Salado, we know I did it in Salado versus doing it in San Antonio, for example.
I don't have that for our QR codes, but I do have an analytics program right now.
Yeah.
Pretty basic.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at another one that will actually tell me where they're coming from.
Like where it's driving from versus
Correct.
just organic
Yes.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you talked about the hotels giving you a dedicated wall, things of that nature, putting the QR code in there, I know generally speaking, QR codes cost some sort of money to generate a specific one, for example, but just a thought. For example, using Holiday Inn because the first thing that comes to mind. If somebody download the QR code there, we can start tracking how many people are doing it from a traveling basis there as well. Okay. That might help out as well. Just a thought.
Sure. Yes,
marketing.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
So thank you for hearing me out.
Yep.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, ma'am, thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 5, is workshop. A is the proposed fiscal year 2025 operating budget, B, proposed tax rate, and then we'll go into public comments and public hearing on 5A and 5B. Mr. De La Rosa, you want to kick this off?
Mayor and Alderman, we did, after Monday's special call meeting, we did publish the notice about the upcoming public hearing a week from today to meet some of the state law requirements. So there's a public hearing on the 22nd on the operating budget, and then there's a public hearing on the 26th for the tax rate. They're very close to each other. They are supposed to be not held at the same night, but also August 26th is the night that you will be considering the adoption of the operating budget and the tax rate that evening to meet statutory requirements. So I'm going to open it up. I did provide you, there was a question last week about salaries. I provided that information that was raised at the last meeting. We did have some discussions with our accountant again, based on the conversations that we had. Again, we can kind of implement what was recommended. And the mayor today signed, I'll send you a check. We just got a check that we're going to be sending out here in the next day, certified mail, for $631,000, which is our entrance seeking fund, which is the bond payment and interest. So in other words, that was already planned. It was segregated, and the mayor asked me last week, do we have it? Yes, signed it today, and I confirmed. So, we do. So again, I've had some conversations with some of you, and I've gone through our bank accounts. We've provided some of you the monthly bank statements, all accounts, about a dozen, the last about 18 months. So a lot of you have been looking at it. So now I'll turn it back over to you and the Alderman if there's any questions. But again, the budget is fairly lean. It's got the percentages. It's got, you'll see what it looks like. I'm sure that there's going to be a request for it. We'll send it out if we get that. You've got a tough job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Hirsch, you have any questions? Comments about this? Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell. As we, I think it was last Monday when we rolled this out. Well, it was posted previous to that, but rolled out this proposed budget. I spoke to it Tuesday, I believe, two weeks ago. It's not something that we wanted to do. It's not something we were expecting to do. Didn't even know until we sat down to have these conversations with our accountant that we were in the condition that we're in. And conversations with myself and Mr. De La Rosa, and then with the board, as well as our accountant, our auditor, we weren't, this is something that we weren't aware of. But if you go back 4 or 5 years, we've not had a balanced budget in that long, in 4 to 5 years. And this one has just been much bigger than we anticipated. This budget that's proposed will leave us with a balanced budget for fiscal year 2025 with about $74,000 to spare. And we've worked the numbers. We've gone over this multiple times over the past few weeks, and we have shaved what we can. We've not added any new positions. I know there's been some comments out there. There's been some chatter on Facebook, and I urge people in attendance.
Mayor, if I may, sure. we did add a half-time for public works.
Correct, yes.
Right? So that's the only position that's been added. And again, a public works employee working by themselves with equipment, chainsaws, doing that kind of work is dangerous. Mowing is one thing, but we also have, when we have debris in the river, in the creek, working by themselves is not safe. So, but we did, so I didn't mean to, I wanted to make sure that there was a half-timer, yes.
The other part of that was there was some question about, there was some comments about hiring some very highly paid individuals here in the administrative offices, and that's also incorrect. We actually looked at about a $10,000 savings by reducing the assistant village administrator position. As far as the police department goes, if you look, that's kind of our highest line items overall, and they are see, what's the percentage for them? Public safety is about 23.8%, with 8.7 and 8.7% for fringe benefits. We need the police officers that we have. We need the police officers that we've budgeted for. They need the equipment that we've budgeted for. It's something that I've spoken about even last year as alderman, and it's something that I still feel very strongly about as far as our public safety, and we just can't afford to trim that any more than it is. So that's all I have on that. We can now go into public comments on this. If anyone here wishes to speak on this agenda item, whether it be the proposed fiscal year operating budget or the proposed tax rate, I'll open the floor now. We have 5 minutes to speak on this. There's another public hearing scheduled for the 22nd of August at 6:30 here also, and then again on the 26th. No comments on this. Anything further from the board?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. Item 6, discussion and possible action. A is discuss and possible action to approve acceptance of Bluff Circle Road as an asset of the Village of Salado in accordance with roadway improvement agreement dated July 21st, 2022, and authorizing Mayor Berghenry to execute a special warranty deed from grantor Bluff Circle Homeowners Incorporated, care of President Danny Allen. Mr. De La Rosa, I've seen some correspondence back and forth on this from some other concerned citizens that had some. I guess there was some agreements that were made, but we're going to have a warranty deed on this thing, right? Too, where if there's something wrong with it, how does that work?
No, sir. Actually, this agreement was reached in July of 2022. We found the minutes. There was approval. There was an investment by the. Well, there was work to be done, about $10,000. Half of it to be paid by the HOA. They've done that, from what we can tell. I've had conversations with Mr. Allen. Unfortunately, couldn't be here this evening. But based on that, it's met the terms. There was nothing in the agreement about any type of warranty, any type of anything else, other than once we've met that they've met that obligation, you've agreed to take over a roadway. So the question was, Mr. Allen contacted the former mayor a couple of months ago, looked into it, and what happened was you have an agreement, you met the terms, but the property was never deeded over. So having it being that way, I certainly was going to recommend that you pay back taxes into the city, accept it. So back taxes were paid when this is provided. There are no taxes due. So to meet that obligation of 2 years ago, it's my recommendation that they've met the terms of the road improvement agreement. And I believe that, again, this document was reviewed by our city attorney. He prepared the deed that needed to be signed, so we can get this behind us. It's a housekeeping matter that's been lingering for 2 years.
Okay. Okay, I'll open up public comments on this agenda item. None? Alderman Hurst, you have any questions? Mr. McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to, as written, for the full acceptance of the Bluff Circle Road.
Motion made by Alderman Hurst to approve as written. Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? This being that passes 3-0. Item B, discuss and possible action to approve escrow agreement by and between the Village of Salado, Texas and Celts International LLC, referred to as the Salado Center Development, and authority the village administrator to execute, authorize the village administrator to execute the agreement. That's going to be Ms. Gina Pence.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. So what you have in front of you this evening is the proposed escrow agreement between the Village of Salado and Celts International, LLC. This is the Salado Center Phase 2, sometimes referred to as the Salado Center Development, just so that way we are all tracking. This is for 14.031 tracts, as described in Exhibit A, which is going to be your final page on that agreement. The escrow agreement is requesting that the developer to establish an escrow fund to reimburse the village for any professional services expenses that are provided during the development process. Our attorney has drafted this agreement. The owner has signed the agreement, and staff is recommending approval. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor and Alderman, if I may, with your permission, Mayor?
Sure.
I'm sure you read today's article or in the last couple of days about the Salado Center. Salado Center Phase 1 was the QT site. There's Salado Center Drive that is currently connected to north of the QT, and it curves southwestern and intersects at FM 2484. Then there's a roadway east-west off of Salado Center that intersects Lark Trail. This Salado Center Phase 2 is part of a developer-driven land swap with the city of Belton. We've had some discussions, at least not discussions with you, but at least I've sent you that was proposed by the developer because they own a lot of the property within that area and much more still. This development agreement would also pay for any legal or engineering or other services that we may need as part of this land swap for your consideration. But unless the city of Belton agrees, then we would have to reduce some of that acreage and have those discussions with the developer for maybe some other options. So, but I wanted to let you know that this is part of what you're reading in the newspaper. These are just negotiations. This is not, I don't want anybody to believe that this is a Village of Salado-driven initiative. This is a developer-driven initiative. It makes sense to us, but again, we certainly cannot make the city of Belton do anything they don't want to do. And usually when you do land swaps, it's 1 for 1, or it depends on who has more leverage. It could be more than 1 for 1. So the cities do conduct, or they do land swaps with other entities, but it is also very common for development to be in 2 cities, in 2 counties. So either way, I believe that we'll be able to work something in. We will have more developments in that area. So this is just something that wasn't driven by the city, and with the construction around the QT, I'm sure nobody recognized that there was construction going on in that area beyond. And again, you know, the developer has taken responsibility and is trying to work through those issues with their engineers, their surveyors, their legal, with our team. So we wanted to make sure, and I think Ms. Pence is telling me there's the ordinance that covers escrow agreements. It's about 102 pages in our subdivision ordinance. So we actually have an ordinance that addresses this. So these funds have already been accepted. We don't just hold on to them until you take action, and they've been deposited, and those funds have been segregated. Any questions for me, Alderman?
You talk about the things that are in the news right now. This is just my 2 cents on that. The only reason this is even newsworthy is because they're trying to piggyback off this other story about our budget situation. So now this has become newsworthy as well. Okay, I'll open this up for public comments. None? Come on up.
Larry Michaels, 1346 Long Meadow, Salado, 76571-254-535-1826. Mayor Alderman, is this just a deal to develop the land for commercial use, or do they actually have a plan on what they're using it for?
No, it's commercial use. I don't see any mixed use development in their plan. Everything is commercial based.
Yeah,
and it's all
they're
local
just developing
retail.
a commercial piece of property to market for
To-
commercial business.
That's correct.
It wasn't clear in the document before, that's all.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the public? Okay, Alderman Hurst? Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell?
One quick question. So I see the number set at 20,000. What if our engineer fees exceed that? Do you have to come back? Do you have to come back and amend this?
We would amend this, and that's a concern also, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, if there's actually a phrase or a sentence in there that if we need to replenish or they need to replenish that account, they will. So, for example, the sanctuary, it's a $50,000 amount. They deplete it. We ask them to put more into it. We have a city ordinance dated back to 2015. Says you pay for professional services. This escrow is nothing more than a starting point. If it's something, if it's going to be something relatively small in utilities, right? When, for example, we have a development on Thomas Arnold Road that wants to put a sewer line down the public right of way. Well, that's not their land. That's public right of way. We need to not only review the plans, but we also have to do construction management and inspections, oversights, because we're going to be accepting. So that will run, and if it runs 2 months, it may be a certain dollar. But say that the construction runs 6 months, because that's the developer. Well, we're going to incur more costs over a longer period of time, and we're going to ask. So we're not just going by this agreement. We're defaulting to that ordinance. You're paying for professional services, and if not, it doesn't move much further.
I just want to be sure that we're covering for any overages and how they get.
Yes, sir. So every month that when we reconcile with our professional consultants bill us, we actually will send an invoice out telling folks that this is what we deducted from your escrow.
And if I may, I just want to refer to the agreement in section 2.03. That's where it refers to your question. It is stated in that agreement.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pence. I guess just hang out because your next one's yours too. If there are no more questions for Mr. De La Rosa or Ms. Pence, I will open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion we approve the agreement between Village of Salado and Self International.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Bell to approve as presented.
Second.
Second by Alderman McDonald. Any more discussion? Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor for approving item 6B as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Seeing that passes 3-0. Item 6C, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance number 2024-10, an ordinance adopting the 2019 comprehensive plan to become effective upon its approval and repealing the 2004 and 2014 comprehensive plans and providing findings of fact. Effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice of meeting. This is on here. This is the second reading.
This is the second reading. Yes,
So
we made a
we're gonna
workshop
move
for
forward
last
with this. This is just for people who were not aware and weren't here for the last meeting for this. The 2019 comprehensive plan was never adopted by ordinance. So we're operating under, I guess, 2014 and 2004. But Ms. Pence, go ahead and give us the rest of it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to go back and, again, Mayor, thank you for that reminder. Mr. De La Rosa did present the workshop in the first reading of ordinance number 2024-10, adopting the 2019 comprehensive plan at the last regular Board of Aldermen meeting. The initial comprehensive plan was in 2004 and was adopted by a city ordinance, as you stated, sir. The comprehensive plans from 2014 and 19 were adopted through board meeting minutes, not by city ordinance. By adopting this 2019 comprehensive plan, we will not only be updating the regulations and repeal the previous ordinances from 2004 and 14. Staff is recommending approval of the ordinance 2024-10, an ordinance adopting the 2019 comprehensive plan. I do want to add that on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, August 13th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did host a workshop on the 2019 comprehensive plan. The commissioners are working to update this plan and are hopeful that they can get this accomplished in the next 4 to 6 months and be able to present that with staff support to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I may need Mr. De La Rosa's guidance on this one.
So touching on the P&Z's intent to review this comprehensive plan and offer up their suggestions and recommendations and changes to be made. Typically, that would cost us around, I think we looked at it, $50,000, $75,000 to get that done. We're going to do that in-house, correct? So that's something, again, that goes back to previous items. In order to save the money on that, we're going to do it here. It's something that we can do. Our P&Z can take a look at it, and then it'll be approved by the board. Alderman Hurst, do you have anything to add? Any questions? Mr. McDonald?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. De La Rosa, just in general terms, simply, why is it so important for us to update this now and not let the old one ride out the way it is currently? How does that help us as a community?
Any developer or engineer survey that's looking at our code of ordinances, looking for the comprehensive plan to determine any developments, specifically in the ETJ more than anything else. How is the city wanting to plan its future growth? We'll do a search in the ordinance section. You type in just comprehensive, and the only one that comes up is 2004. So unless you go to the city's website and you type in comprehensive, the 2014 and the 2019 were both coming up, not the 2004. So we've removed the 2014 from the website because it's no longer applicable. It was adopted by board meeting minutes, but it is important that the ordinance reflect the correct comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mr. De La Rosa, for explaining that.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? Any public comments on this agenda item? Yes, sir.
Vice French, 201 Third South Road, Salado. Just a question. I know that they're going through and looking at updating. Will it be public input or public comment, or who will be able to review this before it comes to the board?
Let me take that. There was some discussions, and there will actually be public hearings. There'll be public hearings both at the Planning and Zoning Commission and by the Board of Aldermen. That number is not yet been determined, but I did look up in the Texas Local Government Code a state law on actually what comprehensive plans are required to have. So that information will be shared with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we will walk them through and educate them on that statutory requirement. There was, for example, we discussed about other areas, and sometimes they said, well, we're going to go back to the task force and get their input. I think that it should be much more inclusive and not exclusive of groups. In other words, invite the entire public that wants to attend, and not just a select minority or a group. I mean, I am more into inclusiveness and to make sure that we've gotten the word out there.
Great. Follow up on. So then we have these updates, and then we have public hearings, and it comes back to the board. Does that then update to a 2025?
Yes, sir. It will amend or repeal. Most likely, it won't. The way we're going to look at it, there are 10 chapters in the comprehensive plan. So depending on what sections get amended, it may just be an amendment to the 2019 comprehensive plan. So in other words, the 2019 will still be enforced in sections, and we'll identify the sections that were amended in year 2025. It may not be a complete repeal like we're doing tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, you good? Anything? All right, thank you, Ms. Pence. If there are no more questions and no more public comments, I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve item C as discussed and as written.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve as written.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All in favor of approving item 6C as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That passes 3-0. Ms. Bean. Item D, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance number 2024-11, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, amending ordinance numbers 2001.12 and 2001.20. The ordinance establishing a police department and the office of chief of police, conferring the duties of the office of marshal upon the chief of police, providing for the solicitation of candidates for office of chief of police of the Village of Salado, Texas, and providing for the establishment of a reserve officer program. Authorizing the appointment of up to 10 police reserve officers, establishing qualifications and standards for police reserve officers, declaring that police reserve officers are volunteers and shall serve without compensation, and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa.
Mayor and Alderman, this is an amending ordinance to previous ordinances. That the one, the creation of the police department when it became a police department and the city of police marshals was abolished. Since you just said that it was up to 10 police officers, even though we budgeted for 9, that doesn't authorize the hiring of a 10th officer without you approving that appropriation. It just allows us, since conversations have been that that's kind of the target goal. So it updates the ordinance for the number of personnel that are allocated. It cleans up some of the language about when it comes to hiring, terminations, and suspensions. And it also creates the ability for the chief to have a police reserve force. So all of these actions are in accordance with state law or our city ordinances. And more specifically, you should probably ask the chief any questions that he may have or concerns on this ordinance.
Thank you. I'll open it up to public comments. None. Alderman Hurst, do you have any questions for Mr. De La Rosa or Chief Fields?
No.
Alderman McDonald.
Yes, Mayor. Do you have any officers that are on standby right now, Chief, that are interested in joining the program as discussed?
I have 2 that I've discussed the possibility of a reserve program. They've approached me when we did not have a reserve program, and the only answer I could give them was, sorry, I currently can't do that for you yet. This will allow that to happen. Like I said previously, one of them actually lives here in town, lives in the Heights. He was an officer in Belton when I was in Belton. He has since moved to the University of Mary Hardin Baylor. He's looking at getting out. He's looking at starting a career outside of law enforcement. But you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into earning that peace officer license. So it's a way to keep that peace officer license from expiring. In exchange for us doing that for him, he will give us 16 hours of compensation. The second one is a gentleman by the name of Doug Taylor. He's the Director of Safety and Security for Belton ISD. He was a school resource officer in Belton. He has reached out to me and asked about a reserve possibility of a reserve program to keep his license intact. Again, I was only able to say, I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to have a reserve force at this time. However, this corrects that.
Is there a secondary follow-up for that? Are you intending to have a best way to say it, a marketing plan to bring the other technical 8 officers in as necessary or as you see fit? Is there a plan?
We're going to do a little bit of social media. My major concern is I wanted it limited, and I wanted it limited for a reason. There's articles on the internet of towns that have 10 officers and 50 reserve officers. Just holding the commission so that they can work off-duty jobs outside of the, for instance, this would be for the village, outside of the village. Construction jobs on the interstate, things like that. That's not what this program is. That's not what I'm looking at. As a matter of fact, I wanted it, number one, I wanted it limited. I didn't want to have more reserve officers than we have full-time paid officers. Number 2, We have some language in there that reserve officers are actually only authorized to work officially sanctioned off-duty events that are inside the village, inside the city limits, the village of Salado. So that way we are getting the benefit. TxDOT's not getting the benefit. Baylor University and their stadium is not getting the benefit.
Thank you for answering my questions, Chief.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? Oh. Another thing I would, and Chief, you can chime in on this, I would be hesitant to put any sort of marketing, anything out there that we're looking for reserve officers, because then it gives the appearance that we don't have enough police officers.
Well,
And the bad guys are looking at that.
that's true.
Do what you want. That was just my suggestion.
Well, there are other avenues, CML,
Yeah.
things like that.
All right. Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate you. Mr. De La Rosa, you have anything else you
No,
want to
sir, I
add?
don't. Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions on this, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2024-11 as presented.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Bell to approve as presented. Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question been called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving item 60 as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Ms. Bean, that passes 3-0. Item E, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance number 2024-12, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, prohibiting trespassing on public property and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, this is the criminal trespass. There was a recent court decision when it came to police officers issuing criminal trespass warnings when it came to public lands, public buildings, public facilities. And who can do that, right? They can't be the ones issuing criminal trespass when it comes to a city park because they're the police. So this actually calls out that the village administrator gives that criminal trespass, whether it is park lands, public right-of-way, underneath the bridge, right? Anything that's public or city facilities. So in accordance with that, most recent case law, I sent that over to the city attorney. We reviewed it. He concurred. As you might recall, we just passed a no camping ordinance and things like that. So this just kind of gives that we are in good legal standing with President.
This is the second reading.
Yes, sir.
All right, open this up to public comments. If there are none, Alderman Hurst, you have any questions?
No.
Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? All right. If there are no further discussions or questions, I will open the floor to a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-12 as written.
Motion made by Alderman Hurst to approve and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving ordinance number 2024-12 as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That passes. Ms. Bean, 3-0. F, discuss some possible action to approve a municipal maintenance agreement between the state of Texas through the Texas Department of Transportation and the Village of Salado, and authorizing Mayor Bert Henry to execute the agreement. Mr. De La Rosa?
Yes, sir. Recently met with the Michael Yates, the area engineer that offices in Belton. One is we were talking about the because of the recent accidents along FM 2484 and with the improvements to that roadway, the street lights that will be placed at FM 1670 at FM 2484. Looks like it'll be in the spring of 2025. That project's been delayed. There's been some funding issues. But the whole conversation was kind of a meet and greet. He's new here. He did work in the area when your street lights and improvements went along Main Street, so he came at the tail end of that project, so he knows Salado. But more importantly, he came across that our maintenance agreement is not current because we've annexed 2843 westward, about 5 miles out. We've gone down south along I-35. So it is to update those areas. And what the agreement is that you have with the state of Texas, right? So, but on page 7 of 9, more specifically, it talks about install, maintain, and operate all traffic signals in cities equal to or greater than 50,000 in population. That is important. Not that you're going to reach 50,000 anytime soon, but when you do, everything along those state roadways, traffic lights, like underneath the Salado Plaza at I-35, the LED lights or the lighting that goes along the interstate, you will become responsible for that. So, but if they put in a street light, say that for some reason they put one in, and even though you're less than 50, you want them or it comes out, this kind of says by separate agreement, which means that you may have to pay a portion or be able to pay the electric bill, right? So you got to be mindful. I did send it to the city attorney, and his position was kind of mine. It's the state of Texas. There's not much negotiating room. You're not going to win. So it's kind of a take it, or not. But it is in your best interest that you have a working relation with TxDOT. You did annex state roadways. They did allow you to do that, but it comes with conditions. But it is my recommendation. This is just an agreement. It is staff's recommendation, having reviewed it, having legal reviewed it, that you approve this or adopt and approve this agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any public comments? Alderman Hurst, do you have any questions? Alderman McDonald,
No, Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell.
Manny, is there anything in this agreement that would force us to have to take over maintenance of the bridge to its place?
No, sir. No. We had that discussion. Apparently that was kind of the enticement. They wanted you to take it over when you did that work early on. It didn't happen. The policy was somewhere along the way while you were on that project, TxDOT's policy changed that they didn't want to hand it over. But if you were to have that conversation today, they would be gladly handed over. So be happy that they're still responsible for it. There are cities that have mistakenly accepted responsibility. My last employment, we were 24,000 population. I found an agreement that we entered 15 years prior, and we were responsible for everything. They thought that it would be great to be responsible. It comes at a cost. So,
Are there any hidden fees, anything in here that we're just not seeing?
no, actually, and even Mr. Yates, in this sense is there, it's actually a slightly better agreement than what you had before. It reads better, and he even agreed that it is probably better for us. Yeah. But no, I didn't catch anything that caused any concern to me.
All right, if there are no more questions or comments, I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I recommend make a motion to approve as written for authorization for yourself to execute the agreement.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve as written. Second. Seconded by Alderman Hurst. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Bell. All in favor of approving item 6F as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? As being, that passes 3-0. Item G, discuss and possible action to approve resolution number 2024-04, a resolution approving the agreement dated August 15th, 2024 between the state of Texas and the Village of Salado for the maintenance, control, supervision, and regulations of certain state highways and or portions of state highways in the Village of Salado, Texas, and providing for the execution of said agreement. Mr. De La Rosa.
Yes, so the state never makes it easy, right? So not only do they give you agreements, they give you, we also want you to pass a resolution and make it part of the agreement, send it to us. So this is just a continuation of what we just went over.
Any public comments? Alderman Hurst? Okay. Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell? I will open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we resolve to approve.
Motion made by Alderman, or Mayor Pro Tem Bell to approve,
Second.
seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of approving as written, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That passes. Ms. Bean, 3-0. Item H, workshop and first reading of ordinance number 2024-13, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, regulating water and sewer line extensions and providing findings of fact, effective date, repealer, severability clause, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, this is an ordinance for, even though it says water and sewer and we don't have water, but we may in the future. Or it could also mean that one day you have an agreement with the Salado Water Supply or the Mustang Springs Water Supply or their utility company or anybody else. But what this is, any extension of utilities, for example, I've spoken with somebody, Mayor more specifically, developments where developers say, hey, I ran the sewer line, X amount of linear feet, and I thought I didn't have to pay impact fees. That is not the way the real world works. This actually says that you extend it to your development, whether in some cities, if you're within 300 feet, you have to connect. If it's further, you may enter into an agreement that anybody else that connects to that sewer line pays a pro rata share based on a formula. So this is what this does for you. So we are having conversations about running sewer proposed developments up by the Holiday Inn and Days Inn. They could use this, and those hotels could either pay their pro forma or pay when they come in. That does not waive the collection of impact fees. The impact fees were for debt issued for the wastewater treatment facility, the collection lines, or the lift stations. So sometimes people think that you're Santa Claus and they get things for free. That is not the way development works. This allows a developer that may say that they run it up to Holiday Inn. The connection point would be just west of where the library is. They would have to run it along either up the frontage road all the way to the Days Inn, Holiday Inn area, or through a route that gets them there. The problem with I-35, there's a lot of infrastructure, like fiber optic communications. So sometimes they may have to go through utility easements or some other route to get there. Without saying the name, Alderman McDonald, you saw somebody today that was here to talk to me about whether if a proposed development doesn't do it, he may do it on his own. Can he utilize this? Yes, right? So those are the kind of conversations. This is the same conversations I'm having with developers along FM 2268. Some of those costs for 200 plus acres, they realized that for about $1 million, little less than $1 million, they could actually connect to the wastewater treatment facility and they would pay impact fees. And there was nothing, they were not balking at that. They think it's in their best interest. So this ordinance would allow that. So I left it without a finalization because what I did is I took it from another city that I worked. The city attorney made some modifications to that, and then he's recommending something to make it a little bit more layman person or lay person to understand the formula. I'll run it by the engineers just to make sure, but even our city engineers have not seen this. So we're gonna go through an education process. But the point is, so I will finalize it by the time you see it next time with a formula that makes sense, either in conversation with our city attorney and our city engineers, just to make sure. But it is a tool that you will likely be seeing in the near future. Do you have any questions for me?
Alderman Hurst, do you have any questions?
No, Mayor.
Alderman McDonald?
We're not leaving any money on the table, are we, Mr. De La Rosa?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bell. So in the past, this whole waiving of impact fees, that was a thing. No more.
Look, if you're going to waive impact fees, you get something for something.
Yeah.
Right? So let me just say the conversation today is brief. It was, he said, well, if I do this, I get all my money back. No, but you might based on your pro forma. I said, but you don't have to wait for the sewer to get annexed. I said, if you annex now, we may be able to offer other incentives to do that. So don't wait for the sewer. But when your septic system fails, then you're gonna be rushing to try to get something. So waiving impact fees, Mayor, it's okay if you're getting something, but residential developments usually don't pay for themselves. It's commercial or mixed use where you offer those incentives.
Agreed, thank you. Any public comments on this? Okay, no further, any more questions? This is a first reading, so no action required.
That's correct.
All right, next item on the agenda is adjournment. I hear a motion.
A motion to adjourn, Mayor.
So moved. 7:56. Look at that, man. Less than an hour.